You know I love my Biggie bundle.
With your 5 kids, how many Biggie bundles do you need?
We get easy at 100 for the Biggie bites, the Biggie bag, times 2
goodness.
Biggie bundles with Frosties on the side. You know what I mean?
Light it.
The Triple Option is presented by Wendy's. Get yourself a $4 Biggie Bite, $6 Biggie Bag, or an $8 Biggie Bundle now at Wendy's. Welcome to another edition of the Triple Option presented by the Wendy's. Rob Stone, soon-to-be Hall of Famer Mark Ingram, the second Deuce, the Hall of Famer Urban Meyer at yet another golf course somewhere on God's green earth. I think you might be in the great state of Ohio right now. As always, thanks for joining us. This week, we are going to talk Florida football with their brand new head coach, Jon Sumrall. We continue our quest to find answers to what is ailing our sport by bringing in one of the brightest minds in sports law, and we're going to wave that flag, guys, and tip our hat to the gold medal winning U.S. hockey teams. That's right, plural hockey teams. As always, appreciate you joining us. Remember to rate, subscribe at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We are on social media at 3X Option Show. New episodes on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. We encourage you to submit questions across our handles. You can also drop them in the comments on YouTube. We want to take time this off season to really connect with you, our listener, our viewer, and we want to know what you want to see, what you want to talk about on the show, who you want as a guest. We are taking any and all inquiries. And speaking of guests, we have one that our coach has been trying to get on for a little bit right now. The brand new head coach of the University of Florida Gators, Jon Sumrall, joins us right now. Good morning, Coach. Thanks for taking a break from mat drills to join us on the Triple Option. We'll get to mat drills in a second, but I want to make sure you're involved in this conversation, but I'm going to let Urban start it, right? We got two Gator head coaches right now, and I know, Urban, you were very involved in the behind-the-scenes hiring process of Coach Sumrall. So take us through some of the timeline, and Coach Sumrall, feel free to chime in and maybe fill in some of the blanks, or at least spice them up for us.
Well, welcome, Coach Sumrall. And Scott Strickland, the AD at Florida, and I've become pretty close over the last couple of years. And I went back this year for the Hall of Fame, on-campus celebration. And we had a lot of conversations about, Florida's a unique place, like all big-time places. Every place has got their little niche, and Florida's a tough job. It's a demanding job, and it's got to have the right individual. And so I got involved. I spoke to some other coaches, and then finally they asked me to do some homework. And when someone asked me to do my homework, I am. And I started watching interviews because I think how a person handles himself in front of the camera, in front of the team, is very important. I'm not even sure Coach Sumrall knows this, but I did some homework and had a friend of mine gather about 10 interviews that he did, and I had them pick them because I didn't have time to run through all of them. And then I talked to people that you coached against. Then I put out the film. And the first thing I watched was special teams. Then I watched their defense, and then I watched the offensive line. And I wanted to see because I have very, very strong opinions of what Florida need, what winning programs need. And then I got him on the phone, and it was a done deal after that. I talked to him, and Mark, you'll appreciate this. In this day and age of everybody talking about transfer, NIL contracts, all that nonsense, it's not nonsense, it's real. But we're talking to a coach, and all he talked about is a strength coach, a Green Beret, a guy that he believed in. All he talked about, I believe, and I don't believe, I know this, and I know, Mark, your former head coach, Coach Saban, believe this. You go win that damn championship in January, February, March, April, May, June. People think you get ready in August. You don't get ready in August, not in major at the highest level of college football. And Coach Sumrall blew me away. And I called Coach Scott Strickland back. And there was one issue, Rob, and that's Coach Sumrall's wife's an Auburn Tiger.
Ooh, that's a big issue for Mark, too.
And I don't want to get too much in the woods there because that's his business. But when I heard that, then I flipped the hat on backwards and I put on a recruiting speech. And I went after his hat. I went after his ass now. And
good
I'm
recruiting
so proud.
speech,
hey,
Coach?
John, I'm proud you're a Gator, man.
Man, I appreciate that, Coach. Yeah, what Coach Meyer just talked about in our conversation on the phone. We spent a lot of time talking about really behind the scenes, what it is day in, day out to run a program. It wasn't, like he said, NIL, rev share, transfer portal. Are those things real in our world? Yeah, they are. But that's not what I'm passionate about. And I am passionate about our players getting paid. I'm great with that. Like they deserve to be paid. I'm good. I'm fine with player movement, but I love the off season. You know, the season, it is what it is. The work's the work. The weeks are the weeks. Monday is a Monday every week in a game week. The same type of flow of the day. But to Coach's point, like our head strength coach here, Rusty Witt, a Green Beret. And we say this all the time. This is a Navy SEAL thing, not a Jon Sumrall thing or a Rusty Witt thing or an Urban Meyer thing, but you don't rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your training. And so our world right now is like, hey, you get a brand new team. We got 50 plus new players right now that have never been in the swamp on a game day. And so how quickly can we get them connected? And really that's only forged through adversity and maybe the off-season work you put in the match drills, and you have to make it hard. And so we've been grinding that. Those conversations with Coach Meyer, that first one was really cool for me. To his point, he put on the recruiting hat a little bit. Like, look, you as a college football coach, I'm 43. All right. Coach Meyer, 01, 02, you were at were you at Bowling Green or Utah then?
Bowling Green.
Yeah. I was a player in college, all right? And like I became a GA, and I was a GA at Kentucky when Coach Meyer was the head coach at Florida. And so as a young coach, I looked at Coach Meyer and I'm like, man, that's what the standard of this profession looks like, of how to have success and how to do it the right way. So your phone rings and you may be a candidate for the University of Florida head football job, and Urban Meyer's on the other end. You're like, I got chills. I was like, man, hey, this is real.
Yeah.
And I did have options. You know, there were other things out there at play. I've had options the last couple of years. When you have success, that comes. But man, the University of Florida is a special place. Championships are the expectations and the standard, and that was set by going back to Coach Meyer and Coach Spurrier.
Yeah, man, Coach, that's awesome, man. I'm happy for you. And obviously, we know that recruiting is a huge part of this job. The Under Armour All-American game, it was this weekend. There were multiple recruits that already talked about the impact that you and your staff have already made. What has been your approach to the recruiting, and is Florida number one priority on that list? The state of Florida with this hotbed of talent.
It always starts at home. Yeah, I think your recruiting efforts begin at home. Now, they don't end there, but they begin there. And so we have to win at home. We got to do a good job in the state. We're very privileged and fortunate to be in a state, Mark, that we've got great players here. High school football in the state of Florida is special. There's a lot of talent. There's good coaches all throughout the state. We do have a brand also that's national to some degree. So the Florida logo carries weight. I don't care if you're in New York or California.
Yes.
If you see the Gator head or you see the script Gators,
It's real.
it means something. So
It
we
does.
have the ability to recruit nationally at the same time, but it does start at home. And our approach is, man, we're real and we're authentic. Like, I'm not the type of guy that recruits a kid and they come on campus and all of a sudden they're like, man, why'd you change? Like, I ain't changing. And in recruiting conversations with every young man that steps in my office, sometimes my assistant coaches, they're like, hey, are you trying to recruit that guy or de-recruit him? Because I ask all of them, I'm like, hey, if you're tough and you love football and you want to get coached, you're going to love being a Florida Gator. If you're not tough and you don't love football and you think you've got all the answers and don't want to get coached, please go somewhere else.
Yeah,
Like, do not come here, because
that's real.
I want guys that are passionate about their growth and development. That doesn't mean everybody's always a finished product when they come here, but it's about, are you open to being grown and developed? And so I think guys feel that transparency. They feel the energy. And the one thing I'll say, Mark, is like, a head coach, Coach Meyer, can tell you this gets a lot of credit and a lot of blame, and deservedly so. But I do feel strongly I've hired a really good staff. And that's allowed us to get in on some of these recruits, because your coaching staff, your assistants, they really are the ones that are out there pounding the pavement every day, making sure the right guys are being brought into the building.
Yeah. You know, I'm going to go off script here a minute. This toughness conversation is, first of all, it is the way to win. I'll argue with, you can throw the ball all over the field. If you're a soft ass team, at some point you're going to blow up. And one of the things I would always challenge our team and staff, I want to find out about a coach's toughness and a player's toughness well before the third quarter against Florida State or against LSU, because it's going to surface at some point. This day and age is much different. You got the transfer when kids can you get too hard on them, they leave. I've heard stories. How do you teach toughness in 2026?
Yeah, Coach, I'm a firm believer that mental toughness precedes physical toughness. Like the mind tells the body what to do. And I do think, going back to the mat drill component, we make that challenging. We make it something that's almost unattainable. And we put the guys through, it's an accountability contest. I'm a firm believer that most football games, they're not won, they're lost because somebody will tap out.
Yes.
Like somebody will quit, somebody will give in, right? And so for us, to your point, I don't want to find out in September who's going to tap out and what's going to make them tap. I want to find out in February. I want to find out. I want to make it as hard as we can now so that we get to the games. Man, we're tested. We've been there. And are there going to be some unique things that we can't present to them maybe here in our own facility in February? Yeah, we can't put another team out there that they don't know who they're going against day in, day out. But we have to challenge them. And I do think some people in this world of transfer portal or NIL have gotten maybe a little bit cautious on pushing guys to that line. But for us, and here's the deal, I'm never trying to break our players, but I am trying to make them stronger. And what becomes strong becomes unbreakable. And so I want to see how far can we go to make them so tough that they won't tap out. We talk a lot. We're Gators around here, man. We want to get into the deep water in the fourth quarter, and we want to be the ones that are comfortable in that deep water. Like we're very comfortable in our surrounding when it gets in those situations.
Am I the only one who's feeling like I'm having a flashback to 2005 and I'm listening and looking at a young Urban Meyer? It's not just me, right, Mark?
Oh. Hey, it's a guy that I want to go play for. I tell you
100%. Coach, I think you're feeling the same way, and I think that's probably why you like him so much. Coach Sumrall.
Here, I'm gonna add this because I just love this conversation. Whatever your mind tells you you're going to do as an athlete or a coach, you're going to do. And if you get him, so, I used to say, we're going to callous him up. We're going to, scar him up a little bit. And by the time we hit that third quarter against Georgia in the cocktail party, you're a scarred up dude. I mean, you've been through it. You're not in uncomfortable, like you just said. You are in the deep water, but you know what? You've been there.
You're battle tested.
And the best thing is, and I won't name names, but in the SEC back in the day, I knew the teams that once we got them in the deep water, we had their ass. But then I also knew the guys sitting to my, Saban's teams with Mark Ingram. I also knew that deep water, there's going to be two people know how to handle it. You know why? Because he was trained to handle that shit. And that's what I love about this coach we got at Florida and Coach Sumrall. So I appreciate it. Hey, real quick. So how do you got a completely new roster. They come in, you said half that team has not even jogged on the one of the best stadiums, if not the best stadium in college football. How do you try to indoctrinate them with the history of Florida football?
I think you have to educate them on what this place is about and expose them to maybe what the history is. And I think there's that component to it. There has to be an appreciation where, man, being a Gator means something to you. And so some of that's through maybe storytelling or exposing them to guys that have been around this program. That's why, Coach, I can't wait to get you back here around this team. You're coming back to speak at our coaches clinic, which fires me up so our coaches can even get some of that education. Very, very fortunate. I hired Bam Harbin, who played here in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then I hired Phil Trotwine to be our O-line coach, who played for you, Coach Meyer. And so you've got some guys in the building that have, touched and been a part of this program in some special times as well. So they understand that. And so they can even help me understand it. Because I think if I don't know it, then how do I expect our players to know it? And so I have to get myself informed on what this place means and what it's about. It is a special place. As quickly as you can get the guys to understand what it means to be a Florida Gator, as quickly as you can get them to have connectivity to each other and care about each other, is when you have a chance. And so, we're going to talk tomorrow as a team. One of our core values is love. And I'm not talking about purple skies and butterflies or seeing a pretty girl on campus. I'm talking about, man, the old G.K. Chesterton quote, the true soldier doesn't fight for what's across from him. He fights for what's behind him.
Yes.
Like, we've got to create a culture here where our guys care so deeply about each other, and they've been through so much shared sacrifice together that they understand what it means to be a Gator. They have an appreciation for the guys that have come before them and understand the history of this program and how special it is to be a part of this program.
Yeah.
I feel like we need to do a DNA test to make sure there's no Meyer blood running through you, Coach Sumrall.
Hey.
I take that as a compliment.
You should. It's a hell of a compliment.
Look,
he has a daddy.
And to your point, I've never worked with Coach Meyer, but I've watched him from afar. Like, I've studied as a young coach when you're developing who you're going to be. And I'm myself, I can't be Urban. I can't be Coach Spurrier. I'm not them, but you have a great deal of respect for the guys that have come before you. And I've watched how they've moved. I've watched how they've carried themselves. Man, I watched Coach Meyer's teams compete with a grit and a toughness that's never been compromised. They always fought, and I have a great respect for that. And another person, we got Spikes in the building, which that's a whole different story. We could have an hour-long podcast on Spikes.
Be
right?
Spikes.
But he's here, so in the building. So I'm honored to sit in the same seat Coach Meyer sat in.
So let me give you something that Urban likes to say. One of his phrases, he's got a lot of them, and you'll probably start picking up on them. You can be fast, but you got to be fast. You got to be elite, right? You want elite people. One of his favorite things when he's looking at a program, any program, is he'll start it off by saying, when you pop the hood on this team, right? So we're going to pop the hood. You popped the hood on the Gators when you got there to Gainesville. What did you find underneath that hood that needed fixed or that was running really smoothly?
Yeah, I think there were some things going well. I think academics has been really good here. I told the team here in my first team meeting in January, they had a 3.6 GPA. I told them I'd be okay with a 3.0 and more than 10 wins. Like, that'd be fine with me. But there've been really good people brought into the building. Like, I think sometimes, and Urban can speak to this, having walked into new programs at times, there are good people in this building. The guys have been recruited here. I think they're of high character. Where I feel like we've had to really push the envelope here in developing this team is in the weight room, doing some of the dirty work. Maybe, to Coach Meyer's comment earlier, becoming a little bit more calloused. I think it maybe it became a little too casual or a little too complacent, a little too comfortable. And so I think those things are probably where we've needed the most attention. That starts at the line of scrimmage. We got a long way to go, man. Like, the first workout we had here when we deadlifted, and I went in and deadlifted with the O-line. Like, I did the workout they were doing, man. And I'm sitting here going, this is not where we need to be as an SEC O-line yet. We're going to get there. It's coming. But there's been a ton of growth just in the last 2 months. But the weight room, the strength, the physicality, the toughness, that's where probably I feel like we've needed attention. I think you have to love to compete too. And so in our mat drills, the way we've got them set up, you're paired with another guy all morning, and there's a freaking winner and there's a freaking loser of every rep, and it's scored. And 20 minutes after the mat drills are over, it's on every TV in the building, posted everywhere. So you can find out, were you a winner today or was your ass a loser today? And
that's real.
Because you got to compete every day. I think that's where we have to grow, is we have to grow to where our competitive edge is so fiery that we hate losing more than we like winning. Like, you have to be pissed off and hate losing. And so I think creating that is probably where we've had to spend most of our time and attention. It's not on athletic traits outside of the weight room and strength. I think the strength component's one where maybe I was a little bit underwhelmed when I popped the hood, where I'm like, hey, this team's got to get stronger.
How much can you deadlift right now?
I'm probably like 345, 335.
Yeah.
I'm not going crazy. Look, I'm 43, bro. Like, I'm not doing anything like back in the day, but I like to still make sure that if I get into a fight, I can beat somebody's ass. You know what I mean?
Hey, got to stay dangerous at all times, Coach.
Yeah.
Got to stay
Urban,
dangerous.
what was your deadlift record?
Oh God, I don't even know.
Yeah, there we go.
Coach, you be moving some furniture when we be in them hotel gyms, man. I be seeing you.
Yeah.
No, but
Not deadlifting. I'll do the old man workout.
Yeah.
Now, Coach Sumrall, man, obviously we always talk about some of the changes that we'd have in this moving landscape of college football. We know the transfer portal has been moved to just once a year. Obviously, the college football playoff format that has kind of come out, changed a little bit. Now, what would you change in college football? You're the head of college football. You're the commissioner of college football. What is one thing that you would change if you were in charge of college football?
I love to get the calendar shifted back to where the national championship game was closer to January 1. I realized because of TV and the NFL games in December, we've moved some of this back. I love the expanded playoff. I'm great with it. It doesn't bother me at all that there's maybe more access. I think it makes the regular season. When Urban was coaching, you had 2 losses and you were out, which
One
I
sometimes.
like now. What's changed in our world, obviously, we've gone to 9 SEC games, which has made this league even more brutal almost. And so, not that it was easy before. And so, I do think if we could start the season, maybe everybody week 0, start the playoff a little earlier, those sort of things, I think would be helpful to get the end of the championship season closer to January 1. Maybe not January 1 exactly, but close.
Yeah, close.
I'm not mad at the one portal window because what I do like about it is it allows me to know in January I got my team.
Yeah.
And I'm able to callous that team, like Coach said earlier, from the jump. And there is no April, May roster movement. The only frustrating part there is I was very successful my first year at Troy and at Tulane in a lot of parts because that second portal window. Because what I got to do is go through spring practice, find out where I still had some holes or deficiencies, because you may think you landed it right in December, but it's so hard to get it perfect because you don't even really know your own team, much less what you're trying to bring in yet. And it's speed dating in the portal. And so I think that the second portal window for a first-year head coach is not a bad thing because you could go through spring ball and figure it out. But I'm okay with it for the long haul of college football because I do think calming down it being free agency almost year round is good. And then going back to the calendar piece, I do think there would be, the NFL's got this thing figured out where like coaches can't move until the season's over. Right. And so the biggest hurdle I had this year, Mark, man, I was a head coach at 2 programs for 3 weeks. And you want to talk about sleeping. I wasn't like,
you're in a playoff.
Yeah,
you're in a playoff, and then you're building a program at the same time unanimously. It's like
I took this job on a Sunday. All right, after the last regular season game, I had a Monday morning practice, which was really a Tuesday practice, which is a physical, like that's the meat and potatoes practice of the week, the first one, because we were playing on a Friday night. Flew here after that Monday/Tuesday practice for a press conference. Flew right back that Monday night because that Tuesday we had what was a Wednesday practice because we were playing Friday night.
Yeah.
That Wednesday we had signing day. I signed 18 guys here at Florida and I signed 14 at Tulane when they had no head coach in place for the 2026 season. I was overseeing 2 signing days, which was 2 days out from a conference championship game. And we play a conference championship game Friday night, which is to get into the CFP. And so like that week, what all was going on, it was maniacal. I'm like, this makes no sense. I'm trying to hold the roster together there, hold the roster together at Tulane so we can play in the CFP, sign guys at both schools, put a staff together here, give direction to my staff at Tulane. Like that stuff, just the calendar doesn't make sense on those things to me. I think we could clean a lot of it up.
I got one more question, Coach, and that's the scheduling. When I was at Florida, we played Florida State. You play Florida State. That's a rivalry game. You throw 9 conference games on top of that, and top to bottom, the SEC, I still believe, is the best conference in college football. However, you saw Indiana play Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State. Do you have a philosophy? Is Florida State here to stay? And then with the other 2, do you just – and I know Miami shows up every 5 years, I think. One year we had Miami, Florida State, both top 5 teams, and then, it was ridiculous. What's your you and Scott's opinion on scheduling?
I think Florida State stays forever. Like that one, I don't know that it moves regardless of how many games we go to. I do think if your ultimate goal is to play in the CFP, it's smart of you to evaluate what's worked in the past. You know, my last year at Troy as the head coach, you know, we and SMU was still a G5, G6 school at the time, and Tulane, where I ended up going next, were probably the 3 best G6 schools. But Liberty got in because they were undefeated and they had played Conference USA games and only other G5 games. Where we were playing two Power 4 schools at Troy. We were playing Kansas State and somebody else. Like, we were playing real games in our non-conference. So I do think some uniformity in the non-conference would be helpful. You know, our league has a mandatory 1 Power 4 game outside of the 9. It's everybody in our league has to play 1 P4 out of conference game. Big Ten does not. I think it's helpful for the selection committee if we're all doing the same type of scheduling. You know, that the AFC and the NFC, they go to the playoffs. They don't go play an XFL or UFL or USFL team to figure out who gets in the playoffs. So it's like, it's cleaner, it's simpler. Where our model is a scheduling. It's like, all right, what matters more, being undefeated? The other component to it is you want to challenge yourself and be battle tested, but it's also nice when you can maybe go through a year and find a game or two where your team doesn't have to play every snap of the game as starters. Where that was the biggest challenge I had last year at Tulane, our non-conference last year at Tulane. All right, we open up with Northwestern, Big Ten team.
Yeah,
we win the game 23-3, but my starters had to play every snap. All right, then we play South Alabama, who's been a solid G5 team, didn't have a great record last year. Then we go play Duke, all right, the ACC champion. We beat them, but our starters had to play every snap of the game to win that game. And then we get a layup in game 4. We played Ole Miss. All right, so it's like our non-conference schedule was so brutal. My biggest fear, Urban, was where we're going to get to conference play and going to be worn the hell out and not be able to go win the conference because we were beat up.
Coach Sumrall, great conversation. We appreciate the time, and we are wishing Urban Part 2 all kinds of luck and success in Gainesville. I have a feeling you're going to find it quickly.
It's Sumrall Part 1, Coach.
It's Sumrall Part 1, Meyer Part 2. I love it. It's like a summer movie blockbuster chain, right? Like Part 2 coming your way this summer, coming your way this fall in Gainesville. Jon Sumrall, the head coach of the University of Florida. Coach, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. Coming up next, we have our first lawyer on the show, sports law expert for Sportico, Michael McCann, cleans up some misconceptions and walks us through the legal hurdles out there as we try to fix college sports.
Light it.
Guys, Wendy's really outdid themselves with these new biggie deals at $4, $6, $8. The new biggie deals are bigger and biggier than ever. And I know what you're thinking. How could the biggie get even bigger and better?
These new biggie deals are perfect, Rob, because you get to choose between the $4 biggie bites, the $6 biggie bag, or the $8 biggie bundle. If you're feeling something snacky, you can get the $4 biggie bites with a JBC and a 4-piece nugget. Feeling something medium? Get yourself a $6 biggie bag with JBC, 4-piece nuggets, a small soft drink, and a junior fry. If you want to go full biggie, you can get the $8 biggie bundle with your choice of 2 sandwiches, a small soft drink, and a junior fry, Coach.
So the choice is yours for a pretty biggie deal. Got to be Wendy's.
U.S. price and participation may vary. Single items at regular price. Prices may be higher in Alaska, California, and Hawaii. Welcome back to the Triple Option presented by Wendy's. Rob, Urban, Mark back here with you. And we are joined right now. This is going to be a good conversation. Michael McCann, Sportico legal expert, Associate Dean, Professor of Law and Sports Director at the University of New Hampshire, also a visiting Professor of Law at Harvard. He knows everything there is about sports law, right, Mike? Is that the basic way I can sum it up? Sports law.
Yeah, I don't know if I know everything, but that's a great description.
Okay, all right. Well, you're our sports law expert right now, for sure. But Urban has become kind of a junior expert in sports law, and the burgeoning lawyer Urban Meyer has got some questions for you, right, Coach?
All right, Mike, before we get started here, what's your record against CL? You are what your record is. What's your record against CL?
It's good. It's really good. It's winning.
Yeah.
All right, so I've recently been involved in some conversations, and I keep saying until we fix this enforcement arm of college sports called the NCAA, and I'm not throwing stones, but they've become a toothless organization because they don't have the power of subpoena. So the investigations take forever. It's time consuming. And then also, anytime they make a ruling, you see it all the time, they get litigated and they lose. And so there's a lot of things to get fixed. Mine on number one on the hit parade to me is to fix this enforcement arm. You don't need new rules. The rules are in place right now. But if there's no enforcement, you see that around the country. If there's no enforcement, it's chaos. So the term that comes up, and I kind of looked it up, I've been asking, but to hear from you, and I think our viewers and listeners would love this, to get antitrust exemption. I hope I'm saying this right. What does that mean? And what's the process?
Yeah, and thank you for the question. You're right. The lack of enforcement is the big problem. That's the fundamental issue why there are problems in college sports is that the NCAA hasn't or is unwilling or feels like it's going to be sued when it tries to enforce its existing rules. And as you said, antitrust is the big question. Antitrust in this context means colleges and conferences are competing businesses, right? They compete for faculty, staff, students, money, grants, marketing, all of that. When they get together and collude through the NCAA, which is a membership organization, and they prevent any one of them from paying athletes in some form or another, that's an antitrust problem because they're competing. It's like when two gas stations call each other in the morning and coordinate prices. If Amazon and Target and Best Buy and all that, they got together to coordinate prices, that's the fundamental problem. So the challenge for the NCAA is that when there are rules saying you can't pay athletes for either NIL or for their labor, it presents an antitrust issue or transferring, right? All of these rules have come up in court. And the big problem for the NCAA was that in 2021, the U.S. Supreme Court, in a case that had nothing to do about NIL, nothing to do about athletes playing sports, the Alston case was about colleges getting together to limit how much they can pay athletes for education. And once the NCAA lost that case, the court said, you don't get deferential review anymore. So we've seen an avalanche of litigation since then. So to your question about an exemption, what the NCAA wants is an exemption from antitrust laws for a statute to say it's not subject to antitrust law. So colleges could collude without being sued. But it's problematic. And we see there's a lot of political pushback. It looks like it's favoritism. Why don't other businesses get that? What are some of the consequences? Should an entity that's being sued a lot get a break from the law that governs it? There are big questions about that.
Right. Okay. So, what other professional sports leagues have antitrust laws, and could that work in college sports?
So the other leagues, NFL, NBA, all of the major pro leagues are governed by antitrust law, but because they collectively bargain their rules with the athletes who are unionized employees, there's a labor exemption. And the labor exemption is called the non-statutory labor exemption. I won't go into it, but very basically, a bunch of Supreme Court cases say when management and labor get together and agree on rules relating to hours, wages, and other workplace conditions, we exempt them from antitrust. That's the reward for management. If you agree to work with the union, you get a break from antitrust law. So now baseball has its own historical antitrust exemption for certain things, but that's not at issue here. So colleges could get that if the athletes were recognized as employees and unionized, and then bargain with them.
Wow.
Okay, let's go here now. So college football, let's focus there for a minute. Is that even when I hear these conversations, in your opinion, is it even a possibility? And if it is, what's the process to get antitrust exemption?
So through the labor route, it would be, let's say power conferences agreed that the football players are employees. So that's step one. That doesn't solve the issue because at private schools, it's governed by federal law, the National Labor Relations Act. But then in some public universities, they're governed by state laws. And in some states, it's very difficult, if not impossible, under their laws for public university employees to unionize. So there are some states that are not as friendly to labor as others, basically. So one argument, and whether this works is an open-ended question, but would be the conferences would be the entity that bargains with the players' union. The conferences are private, so they're governed by federal law. They would represent, Southeastern Conference negotiates a CBA on behalf of SEC schools with the football players. And whatever they agree to, that would be exempt from antitrust law. So that would deal with NIL. That would deal with the transfer portal. If you go commit to Alabama, you got to stay there. I mean, that could be a rule. It's like free agency, right? Restrictions on free agency. They could also have eligibility rules. So we don't see former players from pro leagues trying to re-enter or players not leaving. All of those could be collectively bargained, and antitrust law goes off the board.
Process to go there. Is it congressional?
No, it wouldn't require Congress. It would take the individual member schools. So let's take Southeastern Conference. Let's say the Southeastern Conference schools agree that the football players are employees and they recognize them. Then those players would have to agree to join a union. Now, if they don't agree to join a union, then this doesn't work. So there are hurdles to it. But let's just play it out. Let's say the players then say, okay, we'll agree to a union, and the union bargains with the Southeastern Conference. We negotiate a CBA. So that would work without Congress getting involved. It avoids political stuff. Now, again, it doesn't work if the players don't go along with it. Maybe some players don't want to be in a union. You never know. But that would, to me, seem like the way there.
And in that case, Mike, and we're talking about the SEC just as an example right now, would they then be the ones that were in charge of enforcing all of this?
Yeah, presumably. That's right. So the SEC,
commissioner of the SEC?
Commissioner of the SEC, it would be like a pro league. It would be like a league operation.
So then where is the NCAA in that conversation then if this is what happens?
Non-existent?
Well, it could still exist. It could still have a contractual relationship with the SEC. I mean, for instance, for basketball, right? We know the NCAA does really well with the basketball tournament. It generates a lot of revenue. Maybe that would be the contractual relationship, but football would be only with the SEC in that example.
In that example. So is it possible, do you see college athletes across the country and in all sports being able to unionize? Is that like something even realistic at all?
It would only be realistic if the conference was the entity.
Gotcha.
It has to go through because the individual schools, Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, there are all these state laws that would make it hard for public university athletes to be in a union.
And then would it be legally acceptable if there was college football had their own parameters? Because that's what we're talking about right now, but we forget about the college basketballs and the volleyballs and the swimming and the soccers and the Olympic sports out there. Would that then have to be a whole another carve out, if you will?
Yeah, so there would be Title IX issues. There's no question about it, right? Because everything I'm describing benefits football players, not obviously men, not women athletes. It wouldn't preclude colleges recognizing other athletes at a school from being employees, but in the absence of that would be a hurdle, or some type of statute that says Title IX doesn't apply in the context of a conference as the bargaining unit.
All right, Mike, you're on the hot seat, man. You're it. Fix it. How do you do it?
Well, I think what I just described, it has a lot of hurdles, but it seems more likely to me to work than honestly Congress. Look, Congress, there has been a Republican president and a Republican Congress. There has been a Democratic president and a Democratic Congress over the last 6 years, and nothing passes. Like they have press conferences and they got a lot of attention, but I'm very skeptical. This isn't a party thing either. Both parties, they haven't advanced legislation on college sports. Maybe they finally do that. I don't know, but it seems hard. So let's say that's a tough route. The other route is let's just keep litigating. Every day there are new lawsuits, either players that don't want to leave school, or now players that want to come back after being pro athletes. They're not going anywhere. Those lawsuits are going to keep. And here's the thing: we're going to see different decisions in different jurisdictions. So Alabama court's going to say one thing, Mississippi another, Florida another, New Hampshire another. So you're going to have conflicting rulings, or maybe the Supreme Court takes this on at some point and says, here, we're going to decide the rules once and for all. But it's going to, I mean, they don't really take a lot of sports cases. They have other priorities, as we know. So what does that leave us with? It leaves us with a world of more litigation, more proposals in Congress that don't seem to have traction, and the NCAA playing defense. Now, Urban, you said at the beginning, the NCAA isn't power. It sort of seems like it has its hands tied. One thing it could do, it could just be active. It could be aggressive. It could go on offense. It's like they're playing the prevent defense right now. And they're playing the prevent defense because they're worried about that Supreme Court decision in 2021. But I would say that decision wasn't even about athletes playing sports. Wasn't about NIL. It was about education-related expenses. We don't know what that court would have decided if the case had involved paying athletes to play sports. Could have been totally different.
Cool. All right, Mike, real quick, gut check. Percentage that NCAA college athletics can sort themselves out within the next, let's say, 18 months?
Really low. Almost zero.
Giving them a year and a half, and you're saying almost zero.
Zero.
We're just going to see more lawsuits.
Yes.
And here's the thing. If you're a lawyer, this is great. So there, keep in mind.
It's a booming business.
It's a booming business. So there's a lot of incentive to
Mike McCann eating good.
Yeah, I mean, why resolve it if you're right?
Man, that hurts. Mike McCann, Sportico legal expert. Thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate
Mike,
the
you were
intel.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for having
hope we
me.
can find some solutions out there. That's all we're trying to get is make college athletics better. Coming up next on the Triple Option, the U.S. hockey teams have us pulling a little Jim Craig and wrapping ourselves up in the red, white, and blue. We welcome you back to the Triple Option presented by Wendy's. Before we skip out, we would be remiss if we didn't bring up and talk about the men's and the women's gold medal winning hockey teams at the Olympics. Our good friend Mike Tirico capped it all off on this week's Sound Off.
Because of a drought that almost lasted a half century, those teams are revered. They are held on to forever. And what happened today doesn't take away from the greatness of those teams or the meaning that those teams have in U.S. hockey. But what you saw today was the build of a generation, inspired perhaps by that team that lost in 2010 in Vancouver to the Sidney Crosby golden goal in overtime. Or the team where TJ Oshie had all those shootout goals in 2014. That's when these guys were doing what you're doing, watching on TV. And they were young, and they were living the dream. So for all the young people out there, not just the hockey, but all the Olympics you've watched, those dreams are formed now. Go chase them and go get them. Because our country loves sports, and it brings us together unlike anything else. And if you didn't know that, if you haven't been watching the last 2 weeks, you saw it in Team USA Hockey, winning the gold over their arch rival Canada here in Milan to wrap up these 25th Olympic Winter Games.
Wonderful way to conclude the Olympics. And I know the wins by the women and the men and how they did it and against Canada certainly reverberated with all of you guys.
Yeah, I'm a hockey guy now. I live in Blue Jacket territory, so I'm friends with a lot of the Blue Jackets. And I remember Johnny Gaudreau and when that all happened, and I know some of the guys that played with them. But I'm going to tell you this, Mark, is when I saw the women win the way they won, I watched them screaming at the TV, and then to watch the overtime, the win by the men's team. But as a sport purist, a guy that really believes in team first, Jack Hughes, when he hit that game-winning goal, I teared up. I mean, like seriously teared up when I heard all he talked about is his teammates, his country, and the former players that came before him. And I played it for my family, and we have a group family text. I mentor kids in Sarasota. We're going to play it for them. We're going to have a long conversation about that because I think that's the beauty of sport. And also, I love our country. I get really pissed sometimes when I hear people say bad things about our country. You know, for one moment, why not enjoy the men and women? By the way, first time ever, men and women hockey won gold medals. And then also the men, that's the only third time, Mark, 1960, 1980, and then obviously 2026. So I was blown away. And last thing I'll add is last night I watched, it's a Netflix show, and it's a tribute to the 1980 Miracle on Ice, Lake Placid. It's one of the greatest sports documentaries I've ever witnessed.
Herb Brooks, man, was a bad man. What a
Bad
motivator.
man. And how about like you said, Craig, the goalie, and the Mark Johnson, the star player, and
Ruzioni.
I played golf with him before, who's a stud.
Yeah.
It warms your heart. What's
Coach,
wrong with warming
do you
your
remember?
heart?
Do you remember the 1980 the Soviet game and then winning the gold medal? Do you remember watching those back then at all? Or were you...
I was on the basketball court my sophomore year at Conneaut, and I remember they stopped the game.
Yeah,
really. When they for the Russians, what's amazing, it was a Cold War, and this is why this Netflix documentary is so good. The country was a mess. You talk about, you want to say we're a mess now. This is back in the
1980,
the Jimmy Carter area, when it was just really struggling with long gas lines, and everybody's they showed everything. They're like, oh my gosh, look at this. And for that moment, our country became our country again. It was really cool.
Yeah, man, it's amazing, man. You know, there's few times where our country isn't like divided and sometimes pointing fingers at each other and blaming each other for this, that, and for, you know, the Olympics, the last 2 weeks of Winter Olympics, we all get to root for our young people representing our country, man, and doing it at a high level, high character, high integrity, and to be able to see our women go out there and dominate, get the gold, and then to see our men go out there, dominate, get the gold in overtime fashion. Jack Hughes gets his teeth knocked out on a high stick penalty.
How about that?
Yeah, get his teeth. He's out there with the snaggletooths off a high stick penalty.
Old school hockey, right?
Yeah.
Old school hockey.
Then you
put
go,
the foil on.
Yeah, and then you just go and finish them off less than 2 minutes into overtime. Man, a true folk hero, man. And they had a huge celebration down here in Miami at a fine establishment last night.
Saw
Did you
the
go?
video.
Yeah. Did you go?
I didn't go, but I should have probably went. But at a very fine establishment, they went crazy last night, and man, they deserve it, man. So they made all of us Americans proud. Everyone is chanting USA, USA. That's why we love the Olympics. That's why we love sports. I thought it was so well said by Mike Tirico at the end of the show, man, because sports truly do bring us all together, and it truly is a way for your young people to stay motivated and find some inspiration. So shout out to the USA women and men's for winning the gold medal.
By the way, do you guys know when the next opportunity is to feel that way?
Yes, this World Cup,
right?
Bingo.
This World
Rob
Cup.
Stone.
Just about 100 days out from the World Cup coming to North America, the U.S., Canada, and Mexico as hosts. If the
So
U.S.
tell us
is
real
able to
quick
pull
about
something
that,
off
Ruben.
like that on the soccer field,
If the U.S. pulls that off, this place will
Has
be
that ever
upside
happened? Has that ever
down.
happened,
no, sir.
Rob?
No, sir. Not even close. Relatively,
Not even
like in our
close.
time and age, not even close.
Not
And,
even
and to
close.
this level, it would, yeah.
The country
It's
would
not
go
even
on
in the realm
holiday.
of possibility. It feels like the 1980 team, right? Nobody thought these college kids could do it, against mighty, USSR, right? And they were able to pull that off. This would be something of an equivalent.
Yes.
You're going to have that chance to wrap yourself in the red, white, and blue in just about 100 days' time when the U.S. men's national team takes the stage at the 2026 World Cup. If you want more on the American soccer team, you can check out our sister podcast, Unfiltered, with Landon Donovan and Tim Howard. Coach, I've been telling you for a while to get those tickets to the World Cup. I know you've got connections. Mark, I know you're working it down there in Miami.
I'm working on a
take in
connection.
a
So
game,
if you
the
got
US
if you got any connections for me, plug me in.
I got some guys. Games in L.A., Seattle, and then back in L.A. Those are the guaranteed ones for the U.S. Man, it is
Who's in
gonna
our
be,
group?
Paraguay is going to be there, Australia, and then a TBD. It is going to be something that, Coach, I can't wait for you to experience it this summer. I cannot wait for mid-June for you to throw yourself into the red, white, and blue.
You will
of the World
not
Cup.
talk bad about soccer once you go to one
No,
of these.
it's gonna change things. Well, you'll probably still have a few moments, but that's all right. We're going to allow
It's
you
hard
that.
to. You go to experience a World Cup. I was fortunate enough to experience a World Cup in Brazil. What was that, 2014?
Yes, sir.
And once you go experience that type of atmosphere, man, it changes you forever. I've been to EPL games. I've been to English Football League games.
Not the same.
Yeah,
Not the same.
It's-
Really
it's
good.
nothing like it. Yeah,
But
it's
not the
nothing like
same.
it. It's
It'll be
nothing
We
like
got
the
it on
World Cup.
Fox, right? This is
Yes,
a
sir.
Fox
Yes, sir.
baby.
Fox Sports, every game live. That was your fresh take of the week, presented by Wendy's. Get yourself a $4 Biggie Bites, a $6 Biggie Bag, or an $8 Biggie Bundle now at
What do you think, Mark?
Wendy's.
You know I love my Biggie bundle.
We
You
just
know I
bundle
love
them
my
and give
Biggie
them to
bundle.
us. Follow, subscribe, rate us on YouTube, Apple
With your
Podcasts,
5 kids,
Spotify,
how much,
wherever
how many
you get your
Biggie bundles
podcasts.
do you need?
Hey,
We're at
I'm just
social
calling
media.
Wendy's and asking for my gift cards, man, because we get easy at 100 for the Biggie Bites, the Biggie Bag, times 2
goodness.
Biggie Bundles with Frosties on the side.
All right.
You know what I mean?
Which leads me to this. Thank you to our sponsor, Wendy's. We love you. We'll see you next time on the Triple Option. Presented by who? By Wendy's.
Wendy's!